In the modern music industry, raw vocal talent is incredibly abundant.
Yeah.
I mean, you can scroll through your phone right now and find 10 people singing perfectly in their bedrooms.
Oh, easily. It takes like 2 seconds to find world-class talent online.
Right. But the actual alchemy of creating a cultural phenomenon, a song that stops you in your tracks and embeds itself in your memory, that requires something much more elusive.
It requires the perfect packaging.
Exactly. It requires perfect packaging. And today, we are looking at a video that documents this exact high-stakes collision. You are going to witness a survival show vocalist walking into a studio to meet a legendary producer, and together, they have to architect a hit from scratch. Welcome to Future_Music Deep Dive.
It is such a fascinating dynamic to unpack. We are exploring the Korean music program Famous Singers Need Hit Songs. And the paradigm of this entire ecosystem is, well, it's brilliantly straightforward, but the pressure is astronomical.
Yeah, the stakes are just massive.
Right. You have the top 6 singers from the grueling survival program, Sing Again 4. And they have already proven they can sing. They survived the gauntlet.
They did.
Now they are competing to secure a custom hit song from some of the most legendary producers in the Korean music industry.
Exactly. And to really understand the landscape you are looking at, you have to observe the strategic pairings the show has set up. This isn't just random matchmaking.
No, not at all.
This is musical architecture.
It is an absolute powerhouse lineup of producers and raw vocalists.
It is. But today, you and I are focusing entirely on Episode 7, Part 1. We are putting our magnifying glass on the pair affectionately known as CoDo, that is producer CoKun, and the incredibly talented vocalist, Dorado.
We are going to observe them from the very second they cross the threshold into the recording studio.
Right, and that very first second is where the psychological game actually begins.
Yeah, when you watch this interaction, you are not just watching 2 musicians say hello. You are watching 2 highly sensitive, deeply experienced artists trying to figure out how to reduce the immense creative friction that usually plagues these collaborations.
Which is so common in that environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Making music can be a form of profound suffering if the communication isn't right. They are actively trying to increase their understanding of each other's distinct methodologies.
Because ultimately they want to prosper together, right?
Exactly. They're trying to prosper together to create something that resonates with you, the listener, out there in the universe.
Okay, so let's unpack this from the exact moment she walks in. You observe the aspirational baseline of this entire partnership immediately. CoKun's studio door displays a highly specific, very deliberate sign.
Oh, I love this part.
It simply reads, "No art here." And he actually points to it as Dorado walks in and explicitly states that this is his operating mindset. He tells her, "Let's enjoy it."
But at the exact same time, he calls out the awkward environmental reality of the room.
Yeah, they're sitting across from each other at this sterile desk, and he jokes that the atmosphere feels like a police station interrogation.
What's fascinating here is the psychological strategy behind that "no art here" sign, because it sounds completely counterintuitive, right?
It's really good.
You walk into the studio of a musical genius, and he tells you there is no art happening. But by declaring no art, CoKun is actively stripping away the pretentious, paralyzing pressure of high art.
He's lowering the psychological stake.
Exactly. He knows that pop music, to be highly effective and culturally resonant, has to remain instinctual. If you walk into a room and the expectation is that we must create a masterpiece today, well, it creates immediate cognitive gridlock for the artist.
You freeze up.
Right, you second-guess every melody. CoKun is completely bypassing that gridlock.
I love that you brought up the cognitive gridlock, because I want to look at this through the lens of sheer computational efficiency for a moment.
Yeah.
You cannot conflate no art here with low effort.
Oh, absolutely not. It's the opposite.
It is the exact opposite. CoKun is essentially clearing the RAM of the recording studio. Think about it from Dorado's perspective.
The background processes she's running must be intense.
Insane. When an artist, especially one fresh off a stressful survival show, enters a room with a legendary producer, there are dozens of background anxiety processes running continuously in their mind.
Am I good enough? How do I address him?
Right. Is this melody too commercial? Is this lyric high art enough to impress him? These background processes consume massive amounts of cognitive processing power.
It drains them.
So by stating no art here, CoKun is essentially pulling up the task manager and forcibly shutting down those background applications. He wants 100% of Dorado's cognitive processing power dedicated to raw, uninhibited musical output.
Because eliminating that friction accelerates the problem-solving required to actually build a hit track.
Exactly.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of Korean professional culture, CoKun is pulling off a massive dismantling of hierarchical structures right before our eyes.
The Sunbae and Hoobie dynamic.
Yes. In traditional Korean professional and social environments, the Sunbae and Hoobie, the senior and junior hierarchy, is extremely rigid. It heavily dictates the flow of communication.
The junior speaks when spoken to.
Right, and the junior defers to the senior's creative judgment. But CoKun actively shatters this within the first 5 minutes. He leans into that police station tension and starts a playful investigation.
He starts asking about her background.
And he discovers that Dorado has actually been doing music for 11 years, having started when she was just 10 years old. The moment he hears that, he immediately equates her 11 years of experience with his own time in the industry.
He elevates her immediately.
Yes, he declares them colleagues.
Here is where it gets really interesting, though. He doesn't just call her a colleague. He gives them specific operational roles.
The anime reference.
Right. He assigns them the roles of Luffy and Nami from the anime One Piece.
Which is brilliant. By equating their timelines and using a pirate crew analogy, he completely transforms that interrogation room into an egalitarian creative sanctuary.
It levels everything out.
Because in One Piece, Luffy is the captain with the overarching vision, but Nami is the navigator who actually charts the course and keeps them alive.
They rely on each other, absolutely.
Exactly. He shifts the dynamic from a boss giving orders to a subordinate to crewmates navigating a shared, unpredictable artistic ocean. It is a brilliant way to increase their mutual understanding and set a foundation of absolute trust.
So we have this beautifully leveled playing field. But a leveled playing field only works if the producer actually understands the instrument he's working with. And Dorado is not a standard instrument.
Not at all.
This brings us to how CoKun builds a functional model of his artist. He doesn't just ask about her vocal range, he asks about her life. He reverse engineers her entire trajectory.
Looking for the raw data.
Right. He learns that she was heavily active in the Philippines. She reached the finals of Asia's Got Talent. And crucially, she transitioned heavily into musical theater, performing in massive productions like Annie and The Sound of Music.
That theater background is the key data point for him. You literally see the light bulb go off in CoKun's head.
You really do.
He immediately connects this data to what he saw of her on the survival show. He states that's why her facial expressions were so good.
He recognizes the mechanics of it.
Yes, he recognizes that her stage presence isn't just some accidental, raw charisma. It is a highly learned, meticulously mechanical output derived from years of theatrical training. She knows how to convey narrative through her face, not just her vocal cords.
And since she spent so much time performing in the Philippines, she has mastered that deep, visceral, emotional delivery. There is a concept in Filipino culture called Hugot, which essentially means drawing from a place of deep, profound, often painful emotional resonance.
It's a very intense emotional well to draw from.
Exactly. It's about pulling the absolute rawest emotion from the depths of your soul and putting it into your art. Dorado possesses this Hugot deeply, and CoKun recognizes that this isn't just a girl who can hit high notes.
She's a storyteller.
Right, this is a storyteller who can pull the listener into an emotional undertow. But that depth of emotion doesn't just come from stage training. It comes from real-world survival.
This raises an incredibly important point about vulnerability. The functional model CoKun is building deepens significantly when he uncovers the history of industry predation she had to endure just to make it to that studio chair.
The scam story.
Yes. Dorado opens up and reveals a story that is, frankly, terrifying for any independent artist. She had self-composed a song that went completely viral online.
Which is the dream, initially.
Right, but because of that heat, she received an Instagram direct message from a purported Korean entertainment company telling her to pack her bags and come to Korea immediately.
But the red flags were everywhere. The account had no face. It had 0 posts.
Just a blank avatar.
Exactly, a blank avatar making massive promises. And Dorado didn't just ignore it, nor did she blindly jump on a plane. She engaged in a grueling 6-month mildang, which is a great Korean term for a strategic push and pull.
Half a year in limbo.
For 6 months, she was caught in this agonizing limbo because of her intense, totally justified suspicion that it was a scam. When she tells CoKun this, his reaction is visceral.
He completely drops the playful pirate captain persona.
Completely. He states flatly that a faceless DM is a 100% scam indicator, and she should have reported it to the police immediately.
We really need to pause and consider the psychological weight of that 6-month mildang. The daily reality of an aspiring artist in the modern digital economy is one of extreme informational asymmetry.
You don't know who has the actual power.
Right. You have massive faceless entities holding the keys to the kingdom, and you have independent artists operating in the dark. Dorado was forced into an intense, isolating internal conflict.
Every single day.
Every single day for 6 months, she had to balance a profound, burning ambition to share her music with the world against the highly probable, terrifying risk of financial and emotional exploitation.
Her internal representations of her future were at war with her baseline self-preservation instincts.
Exactly.
I want to pose a question to you, the listener, right now. Just think about this. How many generational talents are lost to the void because they lack the specific, hardened resilience required to navigate that kind of industry predation?
It's a sobering thought.
How many incredible voices give up after the second or third scam DM? Dorado survived the filter. She had the grit to push through.
But the trauma of that uncertainty, that constant fear of being used, doesn't just evaporate when you get on television. It stays in the room with you.
It absolutely does.
And that transition from her vulnerability regarding the scam maps directly onto her vulnerability regarding the actual structural tools of her art. The predation trauma is one layer, but the performance trauma is another.
The language barrier.
Yes. Dorado reveals to CoKun that her single most significant fear during the entire Sing Again for Survival show was the language barrier. She had to sing in Korean, which was deeply unfamiliar to her.
The numbers she gives here are just staggering. She spent 4 intense, grueling months practicing to sing just a single Korean ballad.
Yeah.
As time goes by, purely phonetically.
4 months for one song.
4 months. And it wasn't just casually listening and mimicking. The judge on the show, Kyu-yoon, even noted during her performance how hard she must have studied the language.
Character by character.
Syllable by syllable, to the point where she was literally shedding tears from the stress of it.
We really must understand the immense emotional labor required for phonetic singing, especially for an artist whose entire brand is emotional storytelling.
It's so much more than memorization.
It is not merely the mechanical act of memorizing auditory outputs. It is not just making the right sound. It requires mapping deep, authentic emotional resonance onto completely unfamiliar syllables.
Which sounds nearly impossible.
You are trying to break someone's heart using words you barely comprehend yourself. It is a highly demanding cognitive task that operates at the very edge of chaos.
And if you think about her Hugot, her ability to pull deep emotion, trying to channel that through a linguistic wall is exhausting.
Exactly. So acknowledging this brutal friction, CoKun implements another massive structural safeguard. He establishes a firm, unbreakable, no-stress rule for their collaboration.
He makes it a core mandate.
He explicitly looks at her and states that he absolutely does not want to give her stress. He wants this entire process to be a joyful form of creation. But he doesn't just offer empty platitudes.
He takes actionable steps.
Right. When she expresses a desire to eventually write her own Korean lyrics, he makes a very specific promise. He promises to buy her a poetry book.
CoKun's response here is a masterclass in executive producer function. You can view his promise to buy her a poetry book as a brilliant intervention.
So strategic.
He isn't just giving her a nice gift to make her smile. He is proactively supplying her with a precise linguistic data set. By giving her poetry, he is giving her the beautifully curated tools necessary to expand her emotional vocabulary in a brand new language.
He is giving her the building blocks to express her Hugot in Korean.
Yes. But I want to make sure we don't misinterpret the architecture of this environment. We hear no art here and no stress, and it is very easy to assume this means low stakes.
Right, which it isn't.
Let me be clear, the stakes are immensely high. This is national television. This is the highly competitive Korean music economy. A failure here damages both of their cultural capitals significantly. What CoKun has actually done is engineer an environment that absorbs that stress for the artist.
That is a perfect way to put it, a shock absorber.
The studio itself, the operational rules, the elimination of the hierarchy, the promise of the poetry book, these are all shock absorbers. He is intentionally shielding the artist from the systemic pressure so she can achieve a genuine flow state.
Displacing the anxiety.
Exactly. The stress of creating a hit song absolutely still exists, but CoKun has displaced it. He has taken the weight off Dorado's shoulders. and placed it squarely onto the structural framework that he, as the veteran producer, has built. He is taking the hit so she can sing freely.
And that profound psychological safety brings us to the actual musical blueprint. Because she feels safe, Dorado takes the initiative.
She doesn't wait around.
She doesn't wait to be told what to sing. She pulls out an unreleased acoustic R&B demo that she wrote herself, and she plays it for him. She sings her own original English lyrics.
And CoKun just sits back and absorbs it.
He listens intently, hums along to feel the cadence, and immediately validates her core competency. He tells her, "You write melody lines really well."
And this leads to one of the most defining philosophies of a top-tier producer I have ever heard. CoKun defines his exact functional role in their ecosystem. He tells her, "There's music Dorado likes and prefers. I feel like I need to provide good wrapping paper."
The wrapping paper philosophy. It is so humble, yet so strategically brilliant.
Exactly. CoKun does not seek to overwrite the artist. We see so many producers who want to stamp their sonic signature so heavily on a track that the vocalist just becomes another instrument in the producer's vanity project.
It happens all the time.
But CoKun refuses to do that. He seeks to frame her. He has accurately identified her primary functional output, which is supreme melody generation, and he is focusing his executive function entirely on the sonic packaging.
If we visualize this, think of the artist's raw melody as an unpolished, incredibly valuable diamond. The producer's wrapping paper is the precise cut of the gem and the metallic setting of the ring.
The setting doesn't change the diamond itself.
No, the setting does not change the molecular structure of the diamond. The diamond is still the diamond, but the setting entirely dictates how the light hits it, how it sits on the hand, and therefore, how the market ultimately values it.
CoKun is building the perfect setting for her melody. But right after establishing this beautifully cohesive, collaborative sound, CoKun introduces a massive variable. He brings up a profound philosophical contradiction that every working musician faces.
The chart paradox.
We call it the chart paradox. He warns Dorado that they might go into the booth, pour their souls out, and create a genuinely excellent song that they both love. But paradoxically, the chart ranking might be terrible.
And Dorado's reaction to this is pure gold. She doesn't panic. She laughs loudly and delivers an observation that is highly sophisticated for someone her age.
It's so wise.
She says, if you care about rankings, you get last place. If you don't care, you get first place. Let's not fall for stupid questions like that, us. It is such a wise, stoic approach to art. She refuses to let the algorithm dictate her joy.
She throws it right back at him. And CoKun, wanting to maintain this cool, egalitarian pirate crew vibe, attempts to portray the detached Zen artist who is entirely above external validation.
He tries so hard.
He really does. He nods and states that as long as it is their happy time making the music, that is sufficient. The chart doesn't matter.
But the reality of human ambition is so much messier than that, isn't it? The on-screen captions during this exact moment expose what's really going on in his head.
The leaking ambition.
Yes. The show's editors playfully note his leaking ambition. He literally catches himself in the lie and admits that he actually is the fool who cares deeply about the rankings.
It's a great moment of vulnerability.
I find this to be a moment of profound self-awareness. He is actively observing his own ego in real time. He is acknowledging his innate producer's desire for market dominance, while simultaneously trying his hardest to protect the artistic purity of the room for Dorado's sake.
So what does this all mean? That paradox, the tension between wanting a hit and wanting to make pure art, is the exact mechanism that forces them to define the tactical parameters of what a hit actually is.
They can't just leave it up to chance.
They cannot simply hope for success. They can't just put out a happy time song and pray. They must engineer it, and this leads us directly into the execution phase. CoKun outlines the ultimate, brutal metric of the modern streaming economy.
The 10-second rule.
He looks at her and states, what I feel is we have to win the match within 10 seconds.
It is the defining law of modern music production. CoKun clarifies his stance on the charts here. He says that while he claims not to care about the absolute ranking number, he cares deeply, fundamentally, about the listener's reaction.
He needs that instant hook.
The life of a modern musician is a constant, exhausting tug of war within that 10-second space. To prove his point and execute his strategy, he doesn't just talk about it, he plays a track.
He pulls out the beta.
He pulls up a muted, highly competitive, freshly produced beat that he had literally finished just the day before.
And the reaction is instantaneous. The absolute second that beat drops, Dorado physically transforms. She instantly starts grooving.
She gets that look on her face.
Yes, she scrunches her nose, which is the universal musician face for This beat is filthy, and she is moving to the rhythm before she can even intellectually process the chords.
We really need to critically examine why that 10-second window is so vital. In an algorithmically driven attention economy, human attention spans are brutally constrained.
It's algorithmic fatigue.
We are living in an era of algorithmic fatigue. You're not asking a listener to put on a vinyl record, sit back with a glass of wine, and appreciate a slow-building 3-minute orchestral overture.
No, you're fighting the infinite scroll.
You are fighting a war against the infinite scroll of a smartphone. The listener has their thumb hovering over the skip button from millisecond 1. The musical hook must function as an immediate neurological hijack.
A neurological hijack, exactly. It has to bypass the listener's rational cognitive control and elicit an involuntary physiological response.
Like Dorado grooving immediately.
Just like Dorado scrunching her nose and grooving. When CoKun sees her body react before her brain does, he knows he has a viable weapon in his hands.
And this realization causes CoKun to shift his entire definition of what constitutes a hit song. This is a massive philosophical pivot for a legendary producer.
It really is a paradigm shift.
He explicitly states that in the past, he defined a hit purely by other standards, by what the public digested, by the streaming numbers, by the awards.
But that changes in the room.
But standing in that room with Dorado, watching her react to his beat, he redefines it through internal coherence. A hit song to CoKun now is the song he can confidently pull out of his hard drive, play for anyone, and be deeply fundamentally proud of, regardless of where it peaks on the charts.
And the execution of that immense pride manifests in his ultimate strategic goal for this collaboration. He looks at Dorado and gives her the thesis statement of their entire partnership.
He tells her he wants to gift her trendiness.
He tells her, what I want to gift you is trendiness. Now, trendiness, it's a word that gets thrown around so casually, but in this specific context, it is a highly technical term.
It absolutely is.
You and I need to break down what trendiness actually means in high-level musical architecture because the general public fundamentally misunderstands it.
They think it just means going viral.
Right. Most people think trendiness means chasing whatever is currently popular on social media. But chasing what is popular means you're already too late. You are reacting to a fading data set.
You are making yesterday's music tomorrow.
Exactly. Trendiness, in the context of what CoKun is doing, is the calculated execution of an informational gap. It is the precise sonic engineering required to make an audience stop scrolling, freeze, and ask, wait, who is this person?
It is the absolute provocation of curiosity. True curiosity occurs right at the edge of chaos, in the liminal space between what the listener already knows and what is completely, shockingly novel.
It forces engagement.
CoKun is attempting to package Dorado, using his wrapping paper, in a way that generates intense, undeniable external curiosity. He wants the listener to forcibly direct their attention mechanisms toward her specific identity.
Let me give you an analogy for how this functions mechanically. Curiosity is essentially itch in the listener's brain. The hit song, the 10-second hook, the driving beat, the Hugot vocal is not just a pleasant sound.
It's a tool.
It is a specific mechanical tool that forces the listener to actively seek out the artist to scratch that itch. Think about it. If a song is merely good, you passively consume it.
You nod your head and move on.
You nod your head, this song ends, and you move on with your life. You never learn the artist's name. But if the song achieves true trendiness, you are compelled to act.
You check the credits.
You check the credits. You search for their social media. You watch their live performances online. You enter their ecosystem. That is the ultimate tactical objective of the 10-second rule. It isn't just about preventing a skip. It's about forcing an engagement.
But before we conclude, we have to look at the specific, highly actionable execution step that actually ends their studio session. Because you can have all the philosophy in the world, but music is made by people.
It comes back to the human element.
Always. After establishing these massive strategic frameworks, the no art rule, the 10-second rule, the poetry book, CoKun leans back and simply says, yeah, I'll give you my number.
And Dorado, without missing a beat, immediately responds with a sharp, trauma-informed joke. She says this isn't the PD's or manager's number, right?
Bringing it right back to the scam.
She is directly referencing her earlier trauma of the faceless scam DM that cost her 6 months of her life.
It's a funny moment, but it's also incredibly profound. CoKun quickly laughs and assures her it is his actual personal cell phone number. This brief interaction grounds all of the high-level aspirational architecture we have been discussing in a deeply human, concrete, functional reality.
You have to build the trust first.
You cannot build a hit song, you cannot reduce the suffering of the creative process without first establishing a direct, unmediated communication protocol between the artists. They have to trust each other as human beings before they can trust each other as musicians.
That is the ultimate truth of the creative process. You have to navigate the trauma. You have to actively eliminate the hierarchical friction.
You have to embrace the paradox.
You must acknowledge the uncomfortable paradox of ambition and charts. And finally, you have to execute the brutal structural requirements of the attention economy. All of this immense effort, all of this psychological architecture is done for one singular purpose. To transmit a raw emotional frequency from one human being in a studio to millions of listeners around the world.
Which brings us to a final, necessary point of contemplation for you, the listener. You have just observed the complete deconstruction of how a master producer and a deeply resilient vocalist architect, a cultural artifact.
It's a masterclass in strategy and empathy.
You have seen how CoKun actively chose to redefine a hit song, not by external chart rankings or algorithmic validation, but as the work you are most fundamentally proud to present to the world.
I want you to apply this framework to your own life and your own outputs. Whatever your field is, whatever you create or build every day, what is the hit song you are currently producing in your own life?
Are you just chasing the algorithm?
Exactly.
Yep.
Are you architecting your daily reality just to chase the shifting algorithm of other people's expectations? Or are you building your life and your work to spark genuine, undeniable curiosity, both in yourself and in the universe around you? Consider the architecture of your own ambition.